Hi everyone, and welcome back to Stamp with Anna. And today I have the third card that I made at a recent class, and we focused on the Gumball Greetings bundle. And I've mentioned before, I do some of my classes now because of what's going on in the world. I do them virtually. And when I do a virtual class, I cannot sell a kit that has a stamped image in it. So I focus mostly on dies, punches, papers, things like that. So the first two cards that I made at class, I had videos of them up. One last week and one the week before. This is the first one, and this is an adorable little birthday card. And during this video, I actually did all the die cutting on camera, just so you could see how the die actually works. Then the second one I did was this one here. Let me bring in the last version. This one here, and I had, in this video, I had all of the die cutting done online. So if you need to see how the die works, you will need to look this one up there. I'll show you. You'll get a better idea of it during the video because I do have it all laid out for you, but I actually don't actually do the die cutting. So this is the second one, and it's a split opening. So this is really adorable. And this is one we're going to make today. The first two used the domes and the beads, but a lot of people find the beads a little daunting. They are tiny. These are the beads here. There's 900 of them in a packet, so they're tiny, and they do bounce if you drop them. Ask my family, they'll tell you how many they've stepped on. So I decided to make a card where you didn't have to use the beads. And this is what I came up with, and it's really, really simple. So first thing I want to do, though, is to show you how the die cutting was done for the machine, because there are a lot of pieces in it. And then I'm going to put the machine together with you. So this is the piece of real red that I ran through my die cut machine. And these are all of the pieces that were produced from that. So I have my silicone pad because there's lots of gluing going on and I didn't want to make a mess. So let me just move this around so I can actually show you all of the different dies. So this piece here is the main body of the gumball machine. I'm going to just peel that up. Okay, so it comes from that die. I'm just going to pop this off and put my die on my magnet so I don't lose it. And there is the bottom. Okay. Now, this piece here, this die here, produces the detail for the machine. And so when you pop your pieces out of this, there are these two inner strips there. There's two of these. You don't need those. Okay, so I'm going to pop those out and discard them. Okay. Now I'm left with these pieces. This middle piece here is not actually part of the gumball machine, but I'm going to hold on to that because I'm going to use that, and I'll show you how. So I have this is what's left. I'm going to pop this off, and I'm left with this detail here. So what I'm going to do is turn this over, and with my glue pen, you can use liquid glue, fine tip glue, a Xyron machine. I just decided I'm going to use my glue pen. I'm just going to add a little bit of adhesive all along the edges, and then I'm going to attach it to the main piece of my gumball machine. These two sides line up with the two sides of the main machine, and these little corners line up with the notches up at the top. Okay, and when you're putting it together, you'll see. And then I'm going to just press. Okay. Now this funky little die with curves in it, renders this die cut piece. And what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to turn it over and apply some adhesive and attach that piece to the bottom of the machine. And you'll see that it fits perfectly. And that is just a nice little accent detail for the machine. It gives it a little bit of depth and dimension. So you can see, let me see if I can get that right in there. So you can see how it adds nice dimension, those little pieces. Now I'm going to put that aside and move on to the next pieces. This piece here, this die here, produces the cap. Okay. This die here produces another little strip. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to tip it over. I'm going to attach some adhesive. And then I'm going to attach it to the bottom part of my cap. Okay. Now, this itty bitty tiny die, which I am fearful of losing because it is so small. So I'm just going to pop my little piece out and put it immediately on my magnet so I don't lose it. It produces this tiny, tiny piece. It looks like a large eyelash. So what I'm going to do with that, same thing, I'm going to add a little bit of adhesive. And with my tweezers, I'm going to attach it to the top of the cap. And again, it's just a tiny little detail, but it does add a nice finishing touch to it. If it's too small for you and you don't have the patience to deal with such tiny little pieces, you certainly don't have to use it, but it does add a nice touch. See? Let me get that in camera then. See how you can see that just that little bit of dimension does add a really nice touch. So I'm going to put that aside. Then with these two pieces here and some silver foil paper, I die cut these two pieces. This square one die cuts and embosses, so you can see all the nice detail that's in there. So I'm just going to take that and with some Stampin' Seal, I'm going to attach that to my gumball machine. And all I want to make sure when I'm attaching this is that I keep this this flap is able to stay open. The little slot goes towards the top because that is where the nickel goes in. Now on the coordinating stamp set, there is a little stamp that says 5, like 5 cents. And there is a tiny little die that you can cut that out and you can place that right there. But I didn't do that for this class, like I said, because I couldn't sell stamped images. So that is the basics. Now remember that little, oh, we have to put it together, I guess. So I'm going to take this piece here and I'm going to put a little bit of liquid glue and line that up right in the center there. Now, as far as the little knob goes, I'm going to show you a couple things. On the first card that we made, I attached it with a brad, a silver brad, so that the knob moves. On the second card that I made, I added a little matte dot. It's in silver. This is the package here. They have white, cream, gray, and black. I guess they're the actual colors. Basic white, very vanilla. basic gray and basic black. And I just added that there for a little bit of interest. On this one here, I used a little red gem. That's what we're going to use on this one here. So I have my red gems. I have my little red gems, and I'm just going to lift one off and put it right there in the center. Now my gumball machine is all put together, and I'm going to put it off to the side. Now I have to work on the card itself. And this card is thick, basic white, 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. Before I can put anything onto this card, I do have to die cut that hole. Now, here's the die that does that. Okay, so let me bring up my Big Shot machine so I can show you how I did that. I have a magnetic plate, an acrylic plate, and now here is my card. This is the front of the card, so I want to make sure I open it so it lies flat. Otherwise, if I run it through this way, I'm going to die cut the front and the back. So I'm going to open it up. This is my front, and I'm going to place it where I want it. Now I need it to go closer to the right-hand side because I'm going to add a little bit of designer series paper there. So I'm going to place it down, and when you use this die, you have to remember the top is shorter and the bottom is longer. If you do it the other way, when you go attach the top of your gumball machine, it's not going to sit right because you have exposed edges. You have to make sure that the smaller part is on the top because this fits perfectly. Okay? So now that I have that there, I'm going to run it through the machine. And here I have my window opening. Okay, before I go any further, I am going to take a pencil and very lightly mark the top and the bottom and the two sides. And that's just so that when I do my stamping, I know exactly where I need to put my my image. Okay, so now I'm going to open this back up, and I'm going to put my gumball machine onto this. So I'm going to bring in my gumball machine. I'm going to use liquid glue so that I can move it if I need. Oh, I forgot one thing, one very important thing, and I'm so sorry. That gumball machine that we made, okay? Remember the little piece I said that wasn't part of the gumball machine, but we were going to save it? The reason I'm going to save that is so that when I open this up, I have red behind there. If I didn't, I would have white there, and it wouldn't look realistic. I want red there because that is the inside of the gumball machine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach this to the back of my main gumball machine, and there we go. That covers that up. So what I'm going to do is put a little bit of adhesive on the back of my gumball machine, and then I'm going to place this piece over it just so that it covers that hole. Okay, so now when I turn it over and open it, I have a little red showing instead of white. So now I'm going to put my liquid glue on the back of that, and I'm going to line that right up to the bottom of my dome cutout. And I want to make sure that it's lined up straight so that when I turn it over, I don't see the red on the other side. Okay? Now I'm going to do the same with my cap. I'm going to put a little bit of liquid glue on that. And I'm going to line that up right along this opening there. And again, trying not to come past that opening. Otherwise, I'll be able to see it when I open the card. Okay, and there is my gumball machine so far. Now I just want to do the side here. And the reason I decided to go with this design, because I thought if I just put this in the center of this card, there was going to be a lot of white space around it, and I wasn't crazy about that. I'm not a clean and simple card maker, card designer, although I'm having a clean and simple card class next month. A lot of my cards that start out clean and simple end up with ribbons and jewels. So it's a learning curve for me. So I am, again, back to, I digress. I have this piece of designer series paper, and it's brick pattern, and it comes from the Plant Bloom Where You Are Planted designer series pack, and I just love everything about that. So I'm going to put that off to the side. And then I have a tiny strip of real red, and I'm going to put a little bit of liquid adhesive on that. And I'm just going to butt that up to the side of this. Just again to add a little bit of contrast, dimension. Okay. And after I get it down, if I see that my my papers weren't cut exactly the same, I will come in with a pair of scissors that are on my desk somewhere. Just grab another set. And I'm just going to snip that off. Okay? So that's the outside of the card. The inside of the card, I'm going to do the same. I have another piece of the same designer series paper. And I'm going to butt that up to the center fold and the top and bottom. And then I have another strip of the real red. This is probably 1/8 of an inch. I didn't measure it, I just cut a small piece. And I'm going to butt that up to this brick. Again, just to add a little bit extra. And when I turn this over, I'm going to trim those pieces. Okay. Now, I have a piece of window sheet, which is 2.5 by 2.5. And that's what I'm going to use to make the dome of my card. Rather than having a 3-dimensional dome, I'm just going to have a plain piece of window sheet. And that's going to fit right there. So what I'm going to do is put a tiny bit of glue in each corner. You don't need too much, and it will dry clear, so fear not. And I'm going to center that here and press. Okay, and it will dry nice and clear. On this one here, if you watched my video, when I put my dome in, I covered the back of it with a piece of white so you couldn't see the opening. On this one here, you can't do that because if you cover anything there, it's going to cover the inside, the greeting part. So now the gumball machine is done, and we just need to add our gumballs and our greeting. So the greeting comes from the Pansy Patch stamp set, and it's this happy birthday here. And I'm going to ink it up in Pacific Point. And because the stamp set is photopolymer, I'm going to bring in my Pierce mat. And I'm going to ink it up. And remember we made those lines, right? So So I'm going to center my greeting right in the middle of these 4 tick marks. And there we go, down. Perfect. Now, of course, I'm going to come in and I'm going to erase those little lines because we don't want to send out our card with lines on it, right? Okay. So now we get the basic gist of it. We need to add now our gumballs. And I've already done my punching out. I used the retired 1/2 inch punch. If you don't have a punch, this die set does come with this this round die, which is the one that you cut the 5 cents out, and it also comes with this 3 3 ones, so you could die cut 3 at a time. Because I was punching for so many people, I was making these for so many people, I decided to do it with the punch because it was so much easier than doing it with a die. So I have used some Pacific Point, Daffodil Delight, Bermuda Bay, Real Red, and Garden Green. And here's my sample. I'm going to first make them come out of the front of my gumball machine. So I'm going to take a Bermuda Bay, and I'm just going to add, you can use glue dots for this if you want, but I have my liquid glue here, so I'm just going to use that. And I'm going to put one right here, like it's coming out of the machine. Okay. Then, then I have a little red, Real Red, and I'm going to, again, put a little bit of adhesive on the back of it. And these 3 already fell out of the machine. So I'm going to put one down there, the red down there, and the Daffodil Delight right next to it. And a Pacific Point on the left side of it. Okay. And so now we have our 4 gumballs that have fallen out of the machine. The other gumballs are going to go on the inside. Okay. 3 of them are going to be down the bottom here because we like to decorate our cards. So again, Real Red, Pacific Point, slip that underneath there, and Daffodil Delight. Up on the top. Now the last 4 gumballs are going to go right over here. Now I want to try to get them so that they look like they're behind the gumball machine, yet not so low that when you open the card, you don't want them too high so that you have the white showing, and you don't want them too low so that you can't see them from the outside. Now, actually, what we should have done was before we put the sheet on, we could have just lined them up from there, but I didn't. So I'm going to just line them up where I think they belong. I'm going to close my card. Oops, too low. I'm going to come back up. Okay, so I guess I'm going to make a little line right here. This is where I want their bottoms to be. Okay? And again, what I should have done was before I put this panel on, I should have put this down and made a little line. But that's okay, right? So now I'm going to use my liquid glue and, oops, I'm going to put this right at that line, okay? And before I press down, I'm just going to close this to make sure that's where I want it. I'm going to bring it up just a tiny bit. Okay, perfect. And then I'm going to do my green one. I'm going to put that right next to it. And again, before I press down, I'm going to close my card to make sure I like where it is. I'm going to bring it up just a tiny bit. And then I'm going to do my, because I don't want them to look one right after the other, I'm going to come in with my Bermuda Bay, and I want this one off to the side a little bit, so it's going to be right about where this corner is. So I'm going to bring it up just a tad, close that, bring it in. Okay, and then my Daffodil Delight. And I want this one to overlap those two. And that's exactly where I want it to go. And now again with my eraser, I'm just going to erase those lines. And I apologize, I should have thought to put that that window sheet on last. But anyway, there we go. Let me just fix this right here. Okay, there we go. And instead of a dome filled with little tiny beads, we have a window. If you enjoyed this video in this project, I'd love it if you would give my video a thumbs up and would kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you have any questions about this project or any of the products I used, certainly contact me. My information is in the link below, and I will get right back to you. If you don't have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator with whom you work, certainly let me know, and I'll be glad to help you out. Thanks so much, and I'll catch you back here later with some more projects.